Pat Edvin, I've had apologies from, and Sarah Wakefield might be attending online, possibly, but she sent her apologies just in case she can't be here. That's as far as apologies we've had.
Okay. So, could you move the slides on for me, please, Lee? Brilliant. So just to go through the agenda for today, I'm going to be doing a quick update on membership at the moment, followed by the minutes. Obviously, the normal time for public questions, although I don't believe we have any today. We have the Worldview of SACRE member today coming from Bernie. Who's not here quite yet, but he promised me earlier that he would be. We then welcome Ruth Marks, who's going to give us an update on the Tower Hamlet project on Worldviews. We have a session on the WIRE Award, the National Content Standard, obviously an update on the ASC and our normal RE advisor updates. A little bit of information on the SACRE membership, normal diocesan report, followed by a bit on budgets, final sign-up of the Constitution, hopefully any other business, and finishing on or before or well. So hopefully that is what everyone's expecting. We move on to updates on membership. So we do have 2 new members to welcome today. So a huge welcome to Dr. Megan Daffin, the new general representative on SACRE nominated by the diocese, can't get my words around there, of Bath and Wells, and then Paul Marvin, the new representative on SACRE nominated by the Church of England Trust. So a huge welcome to those 2 people. Oh, back in at the back. Yeah, warm welcome. We've got a packed agenda today, so it will be a good person to be.
More importantly, we've got mince pies. So
Yes. Oh, yeah. Mince pies. There's another box, so don't worry. Is there a Wi-Fi code? Yeah, up there.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah. And moving on.
Perfect.
Minutes? Yes, fantastic. So, Lee, I've been terribly unorganised and not got them open on my screen. Fabulous, so good. So just to sign off the minutes from the last meeting that took place on the 11th of September at 2 o'clock here at Walden House. I'll go straight on to the first. So page 6 on this document, hopefully soon. So that's item number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Please put your hand up if you're online, or shout out if you're in the room if there's anything that you want to raise. Going over onto what looks like page 7, covering items 6, 7, and 8. Good. Over to page 8, covering items 8 and 9. There's a bit in the draft constitution there, but obviously we're going to have another opportunity just to confirm all of that today. Going over to page 9, which is items 9 and 10. Then over to items 10 and 11, finishing the minutes there. There's no comments, sign those off. Brilliant, thank you everyone. Okay.
Okay, so I think no public questions, so we'll move straight on to, well, shall we park that?
We might need to,
We're going to park item number 5, Worldview Bernie Care, in case he turns up. And if not,
he phoned me this morning, so we're unusual if he wasn't.
So we'll see if it comes. So number 6, Ruth Marks and the Tower Hamlet project on Worldview.
She's coming in at 2:30.
She's coming in next week. Number 7 and the WIRE Awards. It's going well.
I think the WIRE Awards and the
National.
National, well, if we do the WIRE Awards, because the National Content takes half an hour.
Okay, so let's do WIRE Award
And
now.
that is
Let's see whether Ruth is back. Over to you,
Thanks. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Great. So I just thought it would be good to discuss the WIRE Award, which is an award that lots of other local SACREs offer to schools. It stands for Widening Inclusivity in Religious Education, and the aim of it is to kind of raise the profile of RE and encourage schools to do things outside of a normal RE lesson, and then kind of acknowledge what they have done and present them with an award, which is just a nice certificate in a frame that they can then display in the school. So what I have copied onto the next couple of slides is just literally what another SACRE does. We can choose to, if we decide to offer this to our schools as well, we can choose to adapt it slightly or just think it's good as it is. We could offer this to schools. So if we could go on to the next slide, please, Lee. Thank you. So there's three bits of criteria that schools would need to do in order to achieve this award. It's open to all schools. And as I said, it's about encouraging those schools to do a little bit more and things, you kind of encourage diversity within RE. So the three things that they need to do is attend a piece of CPD, which is relatively easy to do within the Somerset, the Learn, Teach, Lead RE Hub, or another piece of CPD that's RE related. Then arrange a visit to a place of worship that's not the kind of predominant worldview of that school, which mostly will mean not a Christian place of worship, because most schools will have a church just down the road and will be predominantly Christian, so something that's different. And then the third thing is about kind of taking it wider and either entering an RE competition, and there's an example of one there, or inviting parents into school or some kind of community event to share the learning that's been happening in RE, which could be a special event or it could be at the end of a unit of work. Yeah. So the idea would be that schools do these three things, and there's a very simple form for them to fill in that says what they have done and provide a small amount of evidence. It's not supposed to be onerous for teachers. They would send it in to us, we would check it, and if we were happy, go, congratulations, well done, really pleased with your RE, and then present the school with an award. So any thoughts, any questions on whether that's something we think we might be interested in offering?
Could I just have what kind of award we would offer? What have you got in mind, Rebecca?
Well, what other SACREs do is it's just a certificate in a frame that we kind of present to them.
No.
And then they can hang it with pride on display for everyone to see that they are fantastic at RE.
So is this something they'd have to do every year, or is this like a one-time thing? Or like...
Well, in theory, it would be a one-time thing. And then what has happened in other SACREs that I know of is after it's been happening for a couple of years, you kind of introduce the next level, which is similar but involves a little bit more work. So they can then apply for, say, a gold WIRE award, and they can build upon that. But we can say it's valid for a year, or I think maybe longer than a year, maybe 2 or 3 years, and then they'd have to reapply. We can decide what we would want to do if we are interested in doing this.
Could I suggest an alternative prize, maybe, that might be within our gift?
I
as
think
we
a
have a SACRE
certificate
budget?
is very nice, but I think more could do.
Maybe a free membership to one of the SACRE boxes from the school library service, I was thinking, or something like that.
Yes.
Or you know, happy books or something.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, the other SACREs don't offer anything else, do they, Rebecca?
They don't, no.
The school I was in a few years ago, we applied for the WIRE award, and actually Rebecca presented it to us. We were able to complete it within a week. It's not an onerous task, and it's something the schools can achieve really, really easily.
Okay.
And you know, I think it's, you know, sell it. It's worth doing. Something else above the wall.
Yeah, like it. Increasing engagement. Yeah.
Raise the profile as well.
Yeah.
General agreement around the room?
Yeah. So how do we?
No, if we have any budget, there's something we could offer in terms of supporting any schools that could to visit a place of worship.
What travel costs? That's a really good idea.
They are.
If you go on to my next slide, there's a suggestion.
Go on then, Rebecca. Sorry, we're preempting you.
No, it's fine. I was going to say, if we're happy to do that, there's typing mistakes on it as well. But could we potentially to offer a grant of, say, £200 towards transport. If they, again, up for discussion, it could be a different amount, it could be whatever, but yeah, suggestion.
I suppose it depends on how many
Yeah.
schools.
I mean, we could limit it. So I know another SACRE has said they will offer £200 for the first 5 schools to apply. So it's £1,000 out of their budget. Or we could offer less, or yeah, whatever you think.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I like that idea, yeah. You can't, otherwise it'd be endless
Yeah,
amount of.
we'd like the whole budget.
Yeah.
The £1,000, the first 5 schools sounds like it's within our budgetary.
How would we,
Advertise
out
it,
to-
yeah, that's what
yeah,
my question was, how do we
get it out to
advertise it?
So I would suggest we send it out in the newsletter, the spring newsletter,
Right.
and we advertise it at the hubs each time as well. And then it will kind of spread through word of mouth. Once we start it, schools will go, oh yeah, I did this, and it will spread gradually, I would have thought.
Do we therefore have to kind of set a window of opportunity for them to come and say, yes, we want it? So I'm just thinking if we're trickling through the information about it, the first 5 schools would have come and gone. And then somebody might say, oh, I didn't realise that. So if we just say, it's a window of opportunity to
Oh, I see, yeah.
give everybody. an
Yeah, and I
opportunity.
suppose they can apply for it, whatever. But if they want to apply for the money, maybe they have to check with us first
Or to have done
beforehand.
a bit of it
So
first.
they know. Yeah, I'm
mean,
happy
it's-
to go with whatever you think is easiest.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is integral to getting it going. Now, I know a lot of primary schools at the moment, they are really struggling with being able to pay for the basics of going out. And I think the successful failure of this pins on us being able to facilitate them going out. And I think this is absolutely essential to doing that. For me, there's lots of great educational outcomes here, but for me, the one that I really think pulls out is getting people out into a different place of worship than the one that they are used to. And I think that that is, to me, the absolute flagship part of this. And I think that that grant, and I'm looking at £200, I'm thinking actually, my partner is an administrator at a school, and I know that the prices are spiralling and spiralling. They're really difficult to even get them. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely brilliant, but I also think that we have to be very careful to caveat perhaps just the first 5 because of the pressures on schools and not being able to get grants from all these trips. If you're offering them a free trip, I fear that you may end up with lots of people going, oh yeah, we'll have that because they can't do enough trips. So I think that's very sensible to do. Essential to do, but
Yeah, I mean,
essential to do.
200, I'm afraid won't cover the cost. I mean,
No, it won't.
last time I did it was 1,000 something.
Absolutely,
for a
it-
bus,
it's,
but it will help.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the offer is also about having a visitor come in. So if the school can't afford that or they're too far away, you know, if you've got a visitor coming in and doing something within the school, you know, that would constitute.
And I think, I'm just going to comment on that too, Paul, but a good updated list of really good visitors.
That's a really good idea.
Would be a great idea because, you know, we don't often know where they are.
Absolutely. They are on the newsletter. We do have a list of people who will, at the bottom of the newsletter. But I think we've already spoken about this in the past. We need to be part of that list perhaps as well, which is hard. As SACRE members. But we can think about that going forward after the town. How do you think you might envisage that?
I presume we wouldn't go out with any information about the Wire Awards till after Christmas anyway now.
Yeah.
So we've got a little bit of time just to think about how we do that and get the comms right and and maybe, as you say, a suggestion of where they visit and then cancel it.
Oh, yeah.
Brilliant.
So they don't have to visit a place, they could get someone in.
Yeah.
The easier we can make it for somebody to access and run with, more likely to donate.
Initially, a yes.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
Just a few thoughts on how the money works.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yes, so let's go back to number 5, worldview of a SACRE member.
Yeah, that's as soon as my lesson finished. Yeah, and actually my drive was just putting together my thoughts, so we'll see how they come out. But yeah, I suppose there's a couple of ways to look at this because, and in a very sort of worldview style, there's the very sort of idiosyncratic, individual, personal journey that I've been on, and then there's the kind of, I guess, institutional and more sort of generic community worldview of the Baha'i community, and I think they kind of they intertwine, obviously. So I'll give you a bit of a kind of background to my own, to where I sort of started and where I've gone from there. I was raised by my mum, who was Roman Catholic originally. When she was born into a Roman Catholic community, and she, from what I understand from her story, on her travels through Europe, sort of heard all the principles of the Baha'i faith and kind of, and then when she got married to my dad, they went to Brazil, and that's where she's from originally. And someone said, "Oh, you should speak to this guy," and it was a Baha'i. And when she came back to the UK, she formally sort of enrolled as Baha'i. And so I was raised in the Baha'i faith, and my kind of understanding of the faith as a child and my understanding of the faith now are quite different from each other. And I think there are certain things that kind of remained as really foundational things that carried through all of that, and then there were certain really foundational things that were just missing in my childhood. So the foundational things that carried through all of that, and that are probably kind of the sort of standard way of introducing the Baha'i faith, or of putting it in a nutshell, are often described as the three onenesses. That's a really clumsy phrase, but that's what's often used. So that is the oneness of God. When we talk about God in any tradition, that we're talking about one God. It's the oneness of God, the oneness of religion. That religion traditions over time have been a sort of continuum, almost like a book with different chapters, and then the oneness of humanity. And that's the pivotal, it's described as the kind of the pivot of all of the Baha'i teachings, is the principle that humanity is essentially at the most kind of the easiest to grasp, I suppose, that it's as one family, but it's almost as if we operate as one body. That if one part of the body is injured, then it injures another part of the body. So those three kind of principles and a few others sort of carried through with me through childhood, but there were certain things that just didn't slot into place, and I sort of gradually came closer, and then moved away, and then gradually kind of completely shifted away from the Baha'i teachings. Quite a sort of parametrically opposed direction almost, and then after a few years, I sort of gradually, there were a few things that made me rethink all of that and start to reconsider it. And things started to make sense that had made sense before, but there were there was really one kind of really key principle that for some reason had just never come up really as a child. It was sort of mentioned, I guess, but it's a really key theological principle. And I kind of want to put everyone on the spot a little bit. So the term apophatic theology, how many people are familiar with the term apophatic theology? So yeah, so apophatic theology is a kind of, goes hand in hand with cataphatic theology. And essentially apophatic theology refers to God as being beyond words, beyond comprehension, beyond concepts. So we probably all are familiar with that idea in some form, but just maybe not the term apophatic theology. I was completely unfamiliar really with that concept. And as I started to sort of work through my own worldview, that became a really integral part of it. And I sort of, being fairly in isolation, thought I had invented it. Come up with this thing. And then obviously very quickly realized, oh, actually, this is kind of really fundamental to the entire history of religious traditions for thousands of years. Cataphatic theology is what we'd be more familiar with, which is sort of describing God by God's attributes and using words to describe God and sort of forming a bit more of a kind of a slightly more tangible concept of God. But finding this idea of apophatic theology and finding how it ran through the entire history of religion is, to me, is a really big part of why I want to be involved more directly with religious education, because I think these are key concepts. And I know that RE has changed a lot since I was a child, you know, and I know that things like apophatic theology are more touched on these days. But certainly as a child, these kind of ideas just never came up. The idea of RE was very, we tended to lean towards things that were really easy to grasp. So in terms of theology, that all cataphatic side of things, but mostly really looking at kind of what people wear, what people do, what people eat, that sort of stuff, which is really easy to grasp. But I think there's a really important and necessary challenge there to be able to introduce children to less easy to grasp concepts, because a lot of religious concepts and a lot of theology is really difficult to grasp. So anyway, as I started to kind of discover this whole strand, this whole sort of golden thread through religious history, it started to make sense for me of where I was coming from, which at that point was a sort of agnostic atheist angle, and it also helped me make sense of all those other principles that I'd kind of understood, but hadn't really had. They kind of hadn't had everything in place to keep them together. As I sort of started to work through all of that, I started to realize, well, firstly, I realized I didn't invent apophatic theology. There's kind of a much longer tradition of that than me over the last few months, which made me think, okay, there's a ton of stuff to dig into here, and I started to dig into it. And at that point, I sort of held myself back. I felt myself a little bit blocked from the idea of returning to the Baha'i writings, until eventually it felt sort of inevitable. It felt sort of like, okay, I'm going to have to look at this. And I think it felt a bit weird because it's like, that was my childhood. And then I'm coming back to it. I started revisiting it and seeing that it slotted in a way that made a lot of sense to me. And the way I sort of gradually came round to it was recognizing that my kind of perception of anything is imperfect, and I'm going to look for as much light as I can possibly find, if we want to put it as light or whatever, however we want to put it, as much truth or as much whatever, and could see more light and truth in kind of all the religious traditions than I could see anywhere else, and I could see. And so they all seem to sort of link together and share the same light. This is a very Baha'i principle. And obviously that was stated explicitly in the Baha'i writings, the idea that the same light is in every lantern, let's say. And it ultimately felt kind of like logical conclusion of where I'm going with this is that, yeah, I'm coming back to the Baha'i faith. And yeah, ultimately kind of re-enrolled. I'd unenrolled and re-enrolled as Baha'i about 12 years ago, I think. And yeah, it's kind of it's my understanding has continued to evolve and has continued to grow. So I don't know. That's a bit of a sort of maybe a bit of a rambling history of my spiritual journey and my worldview, but where it's ended up is this kind of Baha'i worldview, but very sort of significantly grounded in an apophatic understanding or apophatic theology. If that wasn't there, as it wasn't when I was a child, then I think the whole thing lose some of its grounding. Yeah, that's there you go.
Thank you. I learned a lot there. I need to learn more, but maybe another time.
Thank you very much. So our next one is in March. We need someone else.
Also be up in March. I've done it, you've done it. Has Rebecca done it?
Rhonda. Perfect. Thank you very much. Perfect. Thank you very much. We've got someone for next time. Ready for March. Thank you. Ruth,
It is
it's
almost.
any minute.
Yeah, can I just introduce Ruth a bit?
Yes, introduce Ruth.
Ruth was on the leadership course that I did over the last 2 years, finished last summer. She's an incredible speaker and RE national pod. She is also just appointed chair of the SACRE, and I can't remember which SACRE section of REAC. Do you know the SACRE?
No, most of that.
Yeah, part of REAC. She also does a lot of curriculum writing for Oak Academy, for Penine Learning. She's doing. She is really fantastic. She lives in France, so she does all her work there. I think she's the head of PDP in her school in England, but she manages to do it from France somehow, which is wonderful, I think. And she's done this project, which she's going to explain to us about. My mind was kind of blown away by its fundamental, wonderful use and how it could be adapted to us and our context. So one of the things that we're looking at in the ASC is introducing the locality element. So Somerset, what is religion like in Somerset? So once we've seen her presentation, maybe we can talk a bit about exactly how we could or would want to use this kind of project. Hello, Grace.
Hi, can you hear me and see me?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Can you hear me and see me in the room? Yeah. Shall I share my screen, or I can send you something to put up on the screen? Will it let me? Let me see if it will let me. Let's see if this is going to work. Thank you for having me today. I hope it's nice in Somerset.
No, it's great.
It's not raining.
Well, does it let me click if I'm in? Is it showing that now?
Yeah. It is,
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, brilliant. So I did a project with my SACRE Tower Hamlets, which actually I'm now the chair, not the interim chair. But it was funded by Cullen St Gabriel's. I did an application for like a small grant to do a little project, and this is what I ended up making. And it was something that was aimed mainly at Tower Hamlets Key Stage 5 core RE, but has kind of been used for many different things. And actually the way I did it itself seems to be several SACREs are interested in doing something similar. So that's what I thought I'd speak to you about, and you can ask me any questions you like about it. Yeah, it kind of grew as I was doing the project. It sort of grew out of a few things, actually. I'll show you first. Anyway, yeah, so you can see it in a minute, and maybe after I've spoken, you could put the Padlet on the screen and have a look through. I can send a link to anyone who's at home as well, and you can have a look through at what I ended up putting together. Yeah, it's just a bit about me. At the moment, I'm writing content for Oak Academy as well. If anyone's got any questions about that, you can direct them to me if you like, or I can try and find out for you. But I actually live in France, which you maybe can see behind me, the window. It's a bit blurry, but yeah. So this was kind of my love letter to Tower Hamlets as well. And if you do something like this, it made me feel much more homesick for Tower Hamlets and realise what an amazing borough it is. So it's a really nice exercise for me to do anyway. So the first thing I wanted to find out is what people were already doing and what they need. And I knew I wanted to look at Key Stage 5 core RE, but like I say, this isn't necessarily what everyone's using it for. Key Stage 4 core RE seems to be something a lot of people are interested in, and primary as well. So if I did it again, I don't know if I'd change it, but the primary aspect has been a really big interest that lots of people have been asking me about. And this is just what different teachers told me they were doing already with Key Stage 5. And I thought I wanted something that was really flexible for different types of schools, different types of teachers with specialism or not. And because it was Key Stage 5, I thought it might be sometimes drop-down days. It could even be students getting on with it on their own in some kind of period of time as well. So I thought I wanted something really flexible, which I think is part of the appeal why different people have said it's useful. Am I talking too fast or too quietly? Everything's okay. Just I can like talk way back and not realise that I'm on mute or something. The things that, like I say, it was aimed at Key Stage 5 core RE, but because in Tower Hamlets we've got a very strong number of students that entered for GCSE, so we don't have a huge amount of core Key Stage 4. That's why I was focusing on Key Stage 4. And the things that I thought would make good Key Stage 5 core RE and students I spoke to and staff members was those guest speakers and those real like lived voices of people in their own words explaining things that we might be learning about in the classroom, but like what influence and relevance, impact does it have on their life? How might it connect with other areas of study? Something that a teacher with other specialism could deliver quite easily, not having to do a lot of pre-reading, not having to like read like packs and packs of notes to be able to do it. Like I say, because it was Key Stage 5, people were speaking about being relevant to employment progression, and also maybe having some of those lesser known religions and traditions, that opportunity to hear voices we might not always hear or readily have those resources on the shelf for. So I decided to, I'll go back to that, make some videos, because I thought that that was a good way of getting voices into the classroom, and then you could use them in a variety of different ways. And also I'm in France, so I could video people without having to like, go and meet them face to face. So I did it all through Zoom and Teams and things like that, videos with a variety of different people. And for me, each of them either lived in, worked in or studied in or had lived in Tower Hamlets. The Tower Hamlets was like part of their sort of DNA. So some people had lived there and moved away, but it was a really important part of who they were. So they had this kind of connection to Tower Hamlets, which I thought would then, well, I wanted to do it because it's such an amazing borough to be an RE teacher in, but also I felt the students would then feel this kind of like pride about their borough, or see the relevance of where they are, like the buildings they walk past being part of that history, which I think is something that would be really nice for other SACREs to do about their local areas, different things that are sort of really special to their area that can connect to the learning. I tried to do a variety of different worldviews. Sometimes I thought someone's worldview was one way because of the connection I got, but the way I phrased the questions, it was very open for them to sort of describe it in their own way, and it went off in a slightly different direction. So that's another piece of advice I'd give, is that, it can go off. You might think, oh, I'll have 5 Christians and 3 this, but actually it could end up going in different directions depending how you ask it. To have it feeling similar across the different resources, I just asked the same 3 questions, but sometimes we went off in different tangents, but I always made sure I asked those questions. And another project might be for me to pull like a video of how everyone answered the first question or how everyone answered the second one, but I didn't have time to do that. I've just got video for each person. And my questions were, what would you say defines or shapes your worldview? And each time I gave the person the definition of worldview that's used in the core report and used quite a lot in the RE community, because I thought that way, if someone's watching it, they can see, everyone's sure of their terms, and I'm using something that's kind of already being used quite a lot in the RE world. And also many of the people I spoke to didn't necessarily understand this like worldview religion thing as well, so it helped them too. I then asked them, what role did that play in their life, work or actions in Tower Hamlets? So how did it influence their life and connected to our area? And then thirdly, I asked them what the best thing about Tower Hamlets was, because I wanted to do that thing about, being an amazing borough and just feeling really good about where we are and what's the good things about it. And then later that actually gave me a way to locate them on the map. So I've got a map of them, but it's not like where they live or where they work. It's the thing that they said is amazing about Tower Hamlets. So it could become like a walking tour that people could come and do in Tower Hamlets and then see the videos. So that's what I decided to do. And then from that, in each video, I picked out themes that I thought resonated with what you could be doing in a religious studies curriculum. So you could do that with themes connected to a syllabus you're writing, or curriculum that you already have. But I then checked that with each of the people before I sort of went live with it, to make sure I hadn't like misrepresented them, or it wasn't something that they were actually, that's not the most important thing. So there was quite a lot of communication between me and my interviewees before it all kind of went live onto anywhere where everyone else could see it. That probably looks a bit tiddly, but later when you get the website, you can see I wanted to do an overview so that people could quickly see what some of the worldviews were, some of the people, the length of the videos, because obviously that might have an impact on how you use them, and what some of the main themes are. So that way you can see. Oh, so I was aiming for 15, because we have 15 hours of non-examined core RE in our Key Stage 5 so in our agreed syllabus. I got 13, but I still felt that was pretty good going to get up to 13 videos, which I did. So you can, I don't know if you can see some of the people there and some of the things that they spoke about. And like I say, I wanted it to have connections to other areas of study. So actually some of these have since been used. So for example, our history students, history A-level, watched Andy's one because he speaks about growing up in the East End under the sort of shadow of Mosley and the Cable Street battle and everything. And so they've used it as part of their history, you know, a source for their history coursework. Hasina, who speaks about being a Muslim and working, she works with sort of asylum seekers and people, you know, sort of living on the street in Aldgate, Liverpool Street, and she spoke about her faith and how that informs that. And so that we showed to the health and social care students who are thinking about going into the charity sector about, you know, how do you deal with some of the challenging aspects of your job. So it's not, for me, it wasn't just about A&RE lessons as well. It's kind of ways of making connections. Anyway, so that was some of the people that, yeah, and all the people were either people I know or people I've had come and speak at my school before, or they were members of the SACRE, or my SACRE helped me find the people. So for me, it really showed me what a SACRE can do for your borough as well, and how you can have those connections and really foster them. And I might not have been able to find, but someone knew how to find somebody. And one person, Philip from the Humanist, I got his connection from contacting Humanist UK, but now he is our Humanist rep on our SACRE, which is great from the connection that we had. So it's, for me, it was a real sort of SACRE project. I wonder if should I play some of my sort of little short clips of some of the people? Do you think the sound work? Let's have a look. Let's see. Okay, give me a second. Maybe I'll have to. So it's just some of the people. Hopefully,
I think the one.
Could you hear her? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, we'll watch that for a few minutes, and then I'll show you the resource, and then you can see if you've got any questions. Okay.
Big thing about my worldview that influences how I speak to people and approach people, especially in my local area in Tower Hamlets, is knowing that everyone is made in the image of God. So again, that's from Genesis as well, and knowing that everyone is valuable to God, and actually God has made them, impacts the way that I see my neighbours or my friends or the people I walk past every day when I go to the station. It really impacts that, because I know that, you know, they have a creator, and I believe that to be true, and I know that he wants to know them and he wants them to know him.
I was interested in knowing things actually, rather than just believing things, and that's what drew me as I learned more about humanism. That's exactly how humanists think, is we don't know everything, but we do want to use evidence and real data, in fact, to inform us to how we want to think about things and understand things.
So I remember that, and then our favourite memory of Nelson Street Cinema, mine and my favourite memory, is on Simchas Torah, rejoicing of the law, when the scrolls were let out, and then there was all this dancing, and the children were allowed up onto the stage, and the women were in the gallery, the beautiful gallery. It was all lovely and polished and waxed, and it was a lovely colour. Beautiful colour, and so the mothers would throw sweets down, and we came out of there armed to the teeth with sweets bulging out of our pockets.
Yes, I come actually from a Roma family in Bulgaria, and I'm also half Irish. So the Irish stories, all the Celtic pagan stories, I was always fascinated with as a young child. And my father was very into exploring that with me and telling me that. And when I was in Bulgaria, again, all my family had lots of beliefs, and the most strong beliefs are about nature and working with nature, working with dance, working with music, working with fire. So that's something that's always been part of my belief.
I think with everything that's happening in the world right now, without going into detail, I feel that if I didn't have that faith and if I didn't have that belief, I think I'd crumble. I think I literally would crumble, thinking what on earth is going on and why, and I'd constantly be questioning. But it's having that faith and being grounded that there is it's hard to explain, there's so many horrible things happening in the world, why is that? But again, it's having that fundamental belief that things happen for a reason. We can't explain that. And having that trust in the Almighty is part of this, and it's the main fundamental belief that keeps me obviously focused and just help them. You know, questioning the whys and whats and whos, that's not the situation. Now I need to focus on moving this person forward and doing what I can from my side now.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there because of the time, but you can watch the rest of it later, and you can have a look at the Padlet and watch all the videos of all the different people. It's really generous people to spend their time talking to me and see the info. Oh, that's not a good freeze frame on my face, sorry. See the the relevance that their different worldviews had for them in their lives. And Andy talking about Nelson Street Synagogue, that's one of the earliest Orthodox synagogues that's built in the UK apparently, and it's now under threat of being sold off. And it's just like, I feel like it's a piece of, and he actually said to me, you're the only person who's ever actually asked me some of these questions about growing up as a Jewish boy in the East End, and I felt like I was kind of recording this piece of history. So yeah, I would really recommend anyone to kind of do a similar project if you can. And I'll just quickly say about some of the things around it. So before the clip, so each clip comes with a PowerPoint. You could just watch the clips, or you could do the PowerPoint with them. I thought what activities would be helpful for different settings, different ages. I always started with the same slide like this, with the definition of worldviews and the students kind of connecting a bit. If they see the title, what do they think that they're going to learn about that worldview? What do they imagine already from their prior knowledge? Sometimes I had like a keyword or a glossary sheet for things that I thought, and again I checked those with the people who did it, so I'd done some spellings wrong from the transliteration, that kind of thing, to help people access the content. During the clip I just had 10 questions that followed along chronologically, because it just always winds me up as a teacher when the questions don't match the speed it comes through. Again, if it's a kid doing it on their own, and it's all editable so people can change however they want to, things that could be drawn out from it. And then afterwards, we sort of went back to that initial question of, well, were my predictions right? Did something surprise me? Was there presumptions I had that were challenged? Anything else that might connect to my own, so some of that kind of personal knowledge sort of aspect. And then after that, I had possible activities or ideas of what you could do to extend it. And so some people have said to me, that was actually really useful as a teacher for them to think, oh, I could make a lesson using this or this, or here's some of the ways that it connects. Other examples, and then sites. Sometimes it's people sent me sites that they really wanted people to see and know. Sometimes I checked it with everybody after I'd done it. And now everyone can have access to it. Anyone can use it, do what they like. Well, pretty much, you could use it and let me know how it goes. But that's kind of my project that I did, and I'm really happy to be able to tell you about it, really. And I've got a dream. Actually, maybe if I can share this tab instead. So this is how it looks. I housed it on a Padlet because I love Padlets. I know some people haven't really necessarily come across them. So I did it as a map so that you could see in Tower Hamlets where the people said they loved something. So I can't remember what they said they liked. Why they said, I think it's Victoria Park that Tara and Linda really loved. And then each person has got the video and the PowerPoint with them. So I guess I've got like a mega dream one day of having the whole country mapped out with all the SACREs, and you can like go, oh, let's go over to Somerset and see what their lived worldviews are like. But I don't know, maybe one day if we can put a bid in, maybe you and me, Michelle. So yeah, that's what I did. And then on the left, you've got all of the videos and the resources. You can watch them as a YouTube list of videos as well. Yeah, however you want to use them, really, or whether you want to replicate it as a model. That's, yeah, I would say go for it. And I don't know if you've got any questions. Oh, that was exactly 15 minutes. Has anyone got any questions?
First, can I just say thanks, Ruth? That was fantastic. Thank you. It excites me every time I see it. So,
thank you.
I don't know if anyone else has any questions, though. I've asked all the questions I need to ask.
I can see a lot of synergy between what we're talking about locality-wise and Somerset and this. Obviously, just on a bigger scale in Somerset. So, if you're talking to young people, they won't have necessarily walked past the same landmark or seen the same thing. So I think we need to just kind of take that into consideration. But I really love the principle, and I think it really fits really beautifully with what we.
Yeah, I mean, we're myself and Rebecca have just been looking at the locality elements, and there's one, say for example, I can't remember the exact question, but it's basically places of worship in Glastonbury. Well, that would be perfect, wouldn't it? So you would get a variety of worldviews there that people could. Because they would have already learned about Glastonbury earlier in the East Age. So it has, I think it has immense value for us in Somerset, because we don't travel quite like our children don't travel quite as much
Well,
perhaps
and you know, you say that about, I mean, I know obviously it's a smaller geographical area, but I've got kids that, you know, haven't even gone to the other side of Tower Hamlets before, because to them it's like, it's a different planet almost. Oh no, that's the other side of that road. Oh, we can't go down there. It's like, okay, well, have you ever like walked along there? But yeah, I agree with you that it might be that, yeah, maybe it's a way of drawing it together and this is our borough, you know, that's over there and that's how those people are. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if there's any other questions about how, I mean, I think finding the people, I suppose that you could show people something like this now, because I was sort of trying to explain to people the kind of thing I wanted to do. So you could say, not necessarily my one, but it kind of could give you an idea of what it might look like, because that was a part of the project, was me sort of figuring out how I was going to do it and then kind of talking to people about how to do it. The first couple, I sort of got into the swing of it. So towards the end, I could pitch it a bit better to people. They kind of got more what I was doing. A couple of people, I think, felt they were representing. So the other thing is, on each video, each resource, I've said each person is just an individual sharing their own individual experiences. They are not representing their faith, their tradition. That's also why I haven't called it like, and for Christianity, I have Bridget, you know, that I've done that very deliberately, because it's just an individual person's, you know, life and their story. But a couple of people, I think, felt that they had to give me the sort of, I don't know, I'm not going to say the party line, but the kind of official, you know, and it took a while for me to get into them, instead of it being something that they'd obviously felt prepared to tell me about whatever it was. Whereas actually I really wanted to get to their own story with it and why maybe they were drawn to it or how it influenced them. But that may or may not be your aim particularly for what you're doing. Yeah. I don't know if there's any other
I think it's very good. Thank you.
The link for the Padlet can be shared with everyone. I can put it in the chat for anyone else who's remote as well. I hope the people are.
Yes, please.
And yeah, let me know if you've got any other questions or if there's anything else I can help you with it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right then.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Bye. All right.
Yeah. You sorry, say it again?
Well, you shared something.
Yes.
Secretaries trust makes such a valuable.
It is really valuable. Yes.
I worked for the Museum Service in Bristol. We delivered something very, very similar about World War II veterans. We suddenly realised that their stories were about to disappear. We thought we'd better get them down. And out of all the work I did for the Museum Service, I was there for 7 years. That was the most powerful single piece of work that we did. And we involved all the children in it. The other thing I particularly like about this project, so I think there's a lot of people that know about religion but aren't necessarily imbued with it. And I think that the built environment is something that a lot of people that aren't religious associate with religion. I think that's a really useful hook, something I haven't thought about. So a very useful hook to get that in. I have to say, brilliant project that I would endorse and support this 100%.
I think, you know, there's so many ways we can use it, but one of the things that we are quite poor at in this county is Key Stage 5 core provision. So, you know, in my trust, I'm the only one that does A-level, and I think I'm the only one that does core, and that's only because I fought for it and it only started this year. So it's not like it's something like this that we could offer to our schools would be invaluable because it's ready made. Now, obviously, our children don't, you know, necessarily need to learn about Tower Hamlets, but if I could get together with you and we could try and put a bid into Covent and Gabriel the next year, then that is something that we could do. If we could get funding to do it, I mean, I think they only gave 1,000 for that, £1,000. You know, if we could get some funding for it, then, you know, between us, she could tell me how, and I could do the interviewing and she could do the interviewing. We could share the load. We could do something. I think it would be such a prop for our locality element. This is something completely new for our teachers, and in fact, it's pretty much going to be the only SACRE I know that will have done it yet. So, you know, if we want them to do this locality thing, we've got to give them as much as we can. It's something that happens in the history curriculum, just doesn't add up. Yeah.
Within the Sacred Faith and Belief Network, part of our submission to the council was to do something very similar, not necessarily with a teacher focus, but already we're partway down the route of doing something around Rastafari, Jews, looking at an abolitionist. Some of it's historical, and then also very, very recently looking at Baptists and what happens when we die, and also 80 candles, 80 years. So we can contribute some things already that,
Absolutely.
you know, you can use to strengthen.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, that's great. Every one of us in this room will be able to help find people we can interview for all the different faiths represented in our area, but also those that are non-religious, pagan. We need to show representation, and I think between us all, we can find people that myself and Ruth could interview.
Yeah, so I think,
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that's obviously done in an urban area. There's going to be some nuances to rolling out in a rural area. But to be quite honest, from the discussions, I don't think you could have a better flagship place than Glastonbury to do it. No, I really don't. I think you could make the best example again.
You know.
Absolutely, you are absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the one key thing which we've come across, that as well as doing the Interfaith and Beliefs Network, we do a heritage project, is making sure in terms of GDPR, because the people you'll be interviewing will be able to be identified against the 9 protected characteristics, so religion and belief. So it's really, really important to have in place, as you all know, the permissions and releases. You know, thinking about that, because that's something we've come across already. And it's fine. Some people are happy to be interviewed and provide testimonials, but they either don't want their name or they don't want their faces. You know, and sometimes the faces are really important. You know, having that. So it's thinking through.
Yeah, I mean, there wouldn't be we wouldn't be able to have the interview if they wouldn't, because that's the whole point, is the fact that they.
But that
happy to,
yeah, that for Sunset is a real stumbling block, because if you have a small Jewish community, for example, and one of the people you're interviewing who brings lots to it may not necessarily want their name or their face, and there are routes around it, but it's thinking ahead and not to lose that fantastic opportunity. So.
I was just thinking you couldn't use like an avatar instead and have like their voice.
I don't know if that really makes much sense to her. But you know, but we'll just try. We can't, we'll figure something out, but yeah.
When we come to that issue.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
well,
the point is that
we already have hit on it, as
yeah,
Paul knows, but we're still working with that person. We'll be producing some really good stuff, but that person does not want to, you know, attend schools or speaking.
I mean, the other thing is, of course, is finding people that don't live in county. Like they have good handouts, people don't know what's up here, but they don't necessarily live here. So yeah, there's lots of ways, but we can narrow that out. I mean, the first stumbling block we get in the grant. Yeah, that's quite paperwork thing. But you know, I mean, if you guys are okay with us exploring that avenue, then that would be fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Lovely. So now back down to number 8, National Content Standard Workshop. Rebecca.
Thanks. So I'm not going to go into too much about the National Content Standard or the REC Toolkit, because I think we've talked about that a lot, and we've talked a lot about worldviews. So what we're going to do today is spend some time actually looking at a very small section of what is in the REC's toolkit. The REC is the Religious Education Council of England and Wales. So part of what they have produced, we're going to have a look at today. And in a minute, what I'm going to ask you to do, sorry, I'm not in the room, but those of you who are in the room, if you could split yourselves into 3 groups, and then I think Lee has got some printouts there for you. Each group is going to look at a different section, and it's basically different types of worldviews. And then in your groups, I've got the 3 bullet points that are on the screen I'd like you to come up with. So summarise your section in 2 sentences. This is quite difficult. And then think about the advantages of using this or including this in RE lessons, and then the challenges of that as well. And I've put links on there in case anyone wants to look up the whole document, or if anyone wants to watch a summary, that's on there as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I've got 4. Are these the ones? I don't know if you can see these. Are these the ones I've got to give out into the groups?
I can't see, but possibly. If you go on to the next slide, Lee, please. So these are the three groups which are at the top of the pages.
So they're not these ones.
No. These are the
Otherwise,
bits from there.
yeah,
They want you want to head for that one. You've got two there. Can you tell me what section you've got, darling?
Section is
Open up.
organised an individual.
B3, 4, B3. B38, B29.
Yeah, that's it. 39, 44.
Ah, but it's all the same.
So we group 1, 2 or 3?
I think we'd be.
Oh, I see. Oh, well, this is, oh, no, they're all the same.
All the same.
Yeah, can do.
They've got quite a lot of people.
Does that all work? Does that all make
Yes.
sense? Yeah.
So
Should we have maybe 10 minutes to look at that and then we'll feed back to the whole group?
Should this group here do page 38? You guys do 39 and you over there on that table 41?
We did 13.
Are we ready to come back, Rebecca?
Yes, ready if everyone is there.
Yeah, we are ready. We're all ready.
You're wrong today, you're wrong.
Okay.
So I was just going to ask each group to feed back on those three questions, bullet points.
Should we start? Shall I
Shall I
start?
do 39?
Yeah.
Yeah. 39.
Yeah. Okay, so we looked at 38, which was organised in individual worldviews. So it's basically a definition. What do we mean by organised and individual worldviews? And in two summary sentences, we said organised worldviews are hierarchical, and often widely approved doctrines and creeds, set structures, whereas individual worldviews are diverse, adaptive, pluralistic, depending on experience, environment, and have varied influences. We spoke about the advantages being that it enables us to go more in depth. So, for example, we talked about the example of, say, if I wanted to teach about Jesus over a term, I could do that, or I could decide to do one aspect of Jesus, say salvation, for a whole term. But within that, I would have the freedom to talk about the diversity of belief around the salvation. And that is an advantage. It's also an advantage because children understand their own worldviews much better when we teach them about different types of worldviews and individual worldviews. Lots of curriculum resources out there for that now to help them do that. Disadvantages, it's time on the curriculum for RE teachers. And also, and I can't remember the other disadvantage. Oh, some people will perhaps forget that what worldviews is trying to do is go deeper on a little aspect and think that they've got to go broader. So they want to do Jesus through the eyes of everyone. They want to do the whole of Jesus' life through the eyes of everyone in a term. That would be very, very, very superficial. If they wanted to do an aspect of Jesus' life and that diversity, they could do it. But some teachers will just feel like, oh, that means I've got to include more stuff. No, actually means you've got to include less. Yeah, it depends. Teachers in Somerset and probably nationally do not have the training for that to understand the difference between depth and breadth, which is something hopefully our syllabus will help and the training that comes after it. But that was something that our curriculum symposium showed us just locally, but we also know nationally. That's the only way we're going to get challenged into RE is by going deeper. Anyway, that's us.
Yeah, so this one's religious worldviews. We didn't write down two sentences, but I'm going to formulate them right now. The first one is something. Sorry. Exactly. Absolutely. It's looking at one of the major themes that sort of comes through it is that even within specific overarching religious traditions, there are a vast diversity of not just different beliefs, but also different kind of journeys within that tradition or to that tradition or from that tradition, and also relationships to that tradition, which is slightly different from the journey in the sense that it's things like, this is way more than 2 sentences. Yeah, but
I told you it was hard.
Diversity was a big one here, and it's sort of looking at the different ways that can take form. The advantages, so tons of different advantages that we sort of came up with. One of the major ones is that this feels much more lived and like real life than this kind of more monolithic thing of this is what Christians believe. You sort of meet a Christian, it's like, okay, not exactly what they believe. And with various other advantages. The challenges could be things like if we do go for that sort of that depth in maybe disciplinary knowledge, then we necessarily need to cut away some of the substantive knowledge that might have been seen as, you know, absolutely vital in the past. So it becomes a balancing act that for a non-specialist, especially if they're dealing with some of the less tangible aspects of certain disciplines, might be a real challenge. We felt like this document in itself, putting it in front of non-specialist RE teachers would be it would be tricky.
Yeah, I mean there's a caveat there. This document is not meant for them.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not even meant for teachers.
Yeah,
it's meant for curriculum, developers and syllabuses and SACREs and curriculum leaders, and because it is overwhelming to anyone who doesn't know.
Similarly, it's massive. So we've got non-religious worldviews, and we didn't really write down that he said he's got to be two things having the same thing. But basically, it's diverse and hugely complex, and there's just so many different versions of that. And we kind of talked about basically it's boiling it down to a person's values and how they live their life and their understanding of the world around them, their connection with it. And we talked about how that isn't then devoid of spirituality at all. So there is still that part of it. Interestingly, there's also this sentence that talks about some non-religious people reject the term non-religious because they don't define their lives in relation to religion at all. So there's a whole kind of language situation there as well. You've got to talk to us that idea, right?
Really.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we talked about advantages. Yeah, we talked about how inclusive it is, and that regardless of what people are hearing about this, that everyone's got their approach, their feeling, their lived values, and where that's come from. So it's completely inclusive.
Validating other people's ways of making sense of the world and finding meaning. I think in terms of advantages, I think it does help to drill down into precisely what someone means when they're using the word religion or religious, and therefore a bit empathetically, kind of what people might be meaning when they talk about, totally keeping themselves separate from religion as well. And also kind of judgments inherent in that, which obviously could be risky as well.
The possible starting point could be in the 2021 census, the second largest group of respondents said they had no religion. So, there's an ideal unpacking what does religion mean. I'm sure that different interpretations of religion will influence that response to that question.
And some scholars actually have done quite a lot of research on the nuns, as it were,
Yes.
which is wonderfully ironic.
Just
so diverse because it's not an overarching organised group of non-religious people. Apart from you've got, which is why we tend to fall into a trap sometimes. The non-religious means humanists, and it's not much passionate than that, but that's kind of that can be what happens easily. So it's resourcing it and finding out where to be learned from and how do we present that?
I mean, the Human Association is great with resourcing, but it's actually quite small as a group.
Yes.
So it does feel like it's much bigger than it is actually in numbers.
Great, thanks everyone. I think hopefully that just kind of gives us a little bit of insight into the different types of worldviews and what kind of, is being said should be being included in RE syllabus. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Lovely. I think it's you and
It might be
Shell
me again. Yeah.
ASB and RE advisors update.
This is you, Rebecca.
I'll do this bit. So just to say, since September, Shell and I have been doing lots on the ASC, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But other things that we've been doing, I went to the Learn, Teach, Lead RE Hub Leaders Training Day, and the 2 hub leaders from Somerset attended that as well. So that was brilliant. We had a hub meeting in September, which was online, and we looked at the Ofsted report, Deep and Meaningful Reports, which I think we've spoken about in the past at SACRE as well. And then we have plans for an in-person meeting in the spring term at Wells Cathedral, which will be great, and it will be the first in-person hub meeting we have had since before COVID, I believe. So that's really exciting. We also sent a newsletter out, as we normally do every term, and then Shell and I have both supported 2 primary schools each, not 2 primary schools each, 2 schools each, 2 primary for me, 2 secondary for Shell. Any questions about what we've been up to in terms of that? And then we'll move on to ASC if not.
No.
Great.
Can I do this bit, Rebecca?
Do you want to? Yeah, go for it. I've been talking for too long.
Yeah. Okay. So I have to say the ASC has been one of the best experiences. It really has. We have had a really good time. We've had 3 meetings so far. We were about to meet on our 4th, but it got cancelled last Wednesday, and which was really sad. But we will hopefully get together right at the beginning of next term. So we've got a lot of work to do. A lot of our business has been about. I don't know if you remember me saying in the past that we don't have the time to do a whiz bang or bells whistling agreed syllabus because we need to get it out next year. So we were hoping to be able to borrow and blend and all these kind of things. That document that you've just been looking at, we've got big copies here somewhere, the toolkit. One of the exemplars were from Coventry and Warwickshire, their agreed syllabus. So they had done it as an exemplar for everyone to have a look at. We used the REC toolkit. This is the syllabus we produced. And we all loved it. I mean, there was bits of it we wanted to change, but we all loved it. Sadly, they did not allow us to use it. To be fair, there's that kind of grey area, which if it's out there, they don't really have a right to say no to us. But we have kind of where if someone has said, oh, I don't know, then you don't. But the beauty is that Norfolk is all open arms. So Norfolk, which has given to SACRE, to Cumbria and to, I want to say, Essex, for their syllabuses, they just picked it up and used it for free. Very generous to Norfolk, and an awful amount of work into the Norfolk syllabus in its time, 2019. They have welcomed us, and we aren't just picking it up off the shelf because it's not up to date anymore. RE has moved on tremendously since 2019, and we need to bring it up there for our teachers, especially when it comes to the multidisciplinary and worldviews approach. So we're using parts of Norfolk, but we are using the REC toolkit to help us create a syllabus. Okay, it's every time I do work on this, which I do every Wednesday, I do feel like I wish I had another year or 2 to make this brilliant, but we're going to have a good enough one, let's put it that way, something that teachers really need now. So that's the story there. Good, move on to the next one for me. Next slide, please. One more. Nope, too far.
I'm not showing the information on the 2 slides you want. So
Go back a bit. I've got it in front of me, haven't I? I really need the next slide.
we just try something else in there then.
Basically, I will show
I've got
you.
it here, so I could try sharing if you can't get it to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, as I said, we had 3 meetings and I wanted to tell you a bit about what we've done over that course. So the first thing that we did, which I did with you guys 2 SACRE meetings ago, was to think about the aims and purposes of RE. This has got to be at the core of our thinking every time. And every time we have a meeting, it's the first thing we go back to. What are the aims and purposes of what we're doing? So that is paramount. And actually, there's probably about 30. But we will not be able to put 30 on the document. That's just silly. So we will hone it down and we will get what we want, but we just keep working with ideas. We talked an awful lot about the locality element. Now there's talk all over the country about a national curriculum for RE, as there has been forever, but it has heated up again. And one of the things that, you know, talking to my other national RE bods that really, really interests us is why, when we are so local, no other subject has a SACRE, people from the area who create the curriculum or syllabus, do we not include the locality? And most of us, most syllabi don't. So that is obviously in history. I think it's in geography, obviously, with all their case studies and field work that they have to do. And so we're trialing this in this syllabus, and that has been really exciting for us, I think. You know, we've just even brainstorming the ideas about the history of Somerset, about the history of religion in Somerset, about the special geography in Somerset. We came to this golden thread, which is journeys, and this journeys can take many forms: chronological, historical journeys, geographical journeys, faith journeys, personal journeys. So this will be the golden thread that goes through our syllabus. We came up with a name, but for the life of me, right this second, it's gone.
Journey of the Summer People.
The Summer People. Journey of the Summer. Thank you very much. The Journey of the Summer People. This is all a work in progress. So we're just, you know, we're just coming up with lots of ideas and starting to work through them. And then we asked some of our members of the ASC if they would be happy to write parts of that locality unit. So myself and Rebecca and the ASC are writing the syllabus, but we would like to offer curriculum resources for those people to just have a background, because they won't know what that looks like. So we need to show them what that looks like in the classroom at all key stages. So that's something that we're planning on doing, and lots of lovely people have agreed to, and which we'll talk at our next ASC and get it drilled down more. Next slide, please. If you could, Rebecca, there you go. Now, you can't see it very well. I don't know if you could you project? Present view or whatever it's called. I don't know.
I will try. My laptop's not terribly happy.
I can see, bless it. It's not even got even smaller. That much. Okay, so between September and now, myself and if you stop there, thank you. Myself and Rebecca have been working on the document. So these are tomes, you know, you go to any agreed syllabus in this country and they are tomes of information. And one thing we do want to avoid is the kind of, here you go, teacher, 150 pages, off you go. We don't want that for them, but there is stuff that we are required to give. We've got to give them the information. So we start with the introductory section. If you could put that up for me now, please, Becca.
Can I just add, Shell, that this hasn't been through AASC yet because last week's meeting was cancelled.
No,
so just that comes with a slight caveat. This
absolutely, all of it comes with a caveat.
Yeah.
So this will be the kind of flow of it that mirrors many other syllabuses in our country. So you have forward, which tends to be from the head of education in Somerset or somebody of great importance, and whoever that may be. The context is something that I'd really like to ask you guys to help us with. So you know, we're going to have statistics like there are this many of that school and that many of the other school, and this many people took GCSEs and that many people didn't. But to get an idea of what Somerset is and what it's like to live here is something that would be great if you guys could help us with. Just to talk to us a bit about it. And again, I don't want 40 pages of context, I just want a page or two, but it would be nice to have that personal feeling. This is what it's like. Maybe a couple of SACRE members to tell us what it's like to live in Somerset. Then we've got the introduction, which just talks about the aims and the purposes. We've got the what do we mean by religion worldviews? what do we mean by multidisciplinary in RE, and then introduction to the locality element. Everywhere you see green, we have done to the best of our ability before we show it to the ASC. Does that make sense? Where it's going to be shocked again. But the amber yellow you can't really see. That is where we're just halfway through playing with it. Next one, please. So this is the really exciting bit, which is the process part of the document. So this is what the teachers really want. And every teacher I know goes, oh yeah, flick, 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 where is it? They want to get to the bit where it tells them what they've got to do in the classroom day to day. And the big thing for our teachers, though, is that they're not going to be able to know how to teach in a multidisciplinary worldviews approach, a great majority of them. So we have to explain what that process looks like. Eleanor, you know, we did this in, you know, she's seen me do this. We've done parts of different curriculum together. It's something you really have to, you know, have a real process for. So process 1 would be to your content selection. Process 2 would be how do you create your inquiry questions. Process 3 would be how you're going to teach it. You're going to teach it through the philosophical lens, the theological lens, the sociological lens. How you're going to teach positionality. And how you're going to assess and monitor your students' progress when it's such, you have so many challenges of not enough time in RE. So that would be the process. That's what the teachers are going to be really interested in looking at. And then finally, the syllabus itself, which will be as vague and then as specific as it can be. So the last bit, please, Simon, which is, it'll show you in a second. Here we are. So we'll have an exemplar, which we have already done, myself and Rebecca, but it has to go through the ASC and probably gets changed twice a day. Every time I go near it, I change something. And so, you know, we're always fiddling with it. It'll take a long time. I'm not going to show you that. It's just in its early stages, really, I suppose, first draft form. And then obviously all of the stuff that you see after it comes when we have done that exemplar. When we've really thought it through, we can talk about various other aspects of the RE. So that's where we are with the ASC. And I promise you the next time the ASC meets, we're going to tear this apart. I think we had it all printed off and everything. We had to cancel it at the last minute. But we're going to tear it apart and make it wonderful. We want something for the next SACRE meeting to present to you guys. Not in like super duper edited form with all the bells and whistles, but, you know, just so you can have a really good look at it, think about it, and feed back to us at the ASC, because we do want to get it done by the end of this academic year. That's it for the ASC, guys. I think.
Do you know when the next meeting is?
We've sent out an email this morning. We're hoping.
ASC, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
we don't. We're hoping for the beginning of January.
Can I say how much I love that golden thread? I think that's absolutely brilliant. It's very specific to here. I think it really allows you to hang that localities part of it on. It's absolutely genius.
Absolutely. You know, we're so lucky with.
Whoever came up with that, give them a gold star. Look.
We were very excited for happy. Very excited and passionate about it.
I'm enthused. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, because of course, you know, all the geography as well and the water, you know, so much about.
So many stories you can tie together with that. Really good.
Oh no, Rebecca, are you gonna? Yeah, brilliant, fantastic. So this is just to highlight to everybody really that we have an ongoing membership of SACRE. Basically for you as members to have the opportunity to go on. There is training available. There are resources on there. There's general information. It's a real kind of wealth of information and resource. But the training specifically, I think, to bring us all together in terms of the most up-to-date thinking and you know the most recent evidence-led things as well, I think is really important so that we can come as informed as we can to these meetings. So all I'm waiting on, and apologies, I was hoping to have it for you today, is the membership number and how you actually log on. So I've requested it again. So as soon as I have it, I will send it out to everybody. But just highlighting that this is a resource for you to use, and we have funded it via SACRE. We agreed that as a membership board a little while ago. So yeah, a freebie for you all. I think it's yeah, that was just I cut and paste or screenshot one of the pages from the actual website for you to have a look. So that just kind of gives you a feel for the fact that there are not just virtual training sessions, but face-to-face opportunities as well, networks, etc. So lots of varying opportunities for you to get involved.
It is really good. It's really good quality CPD. Fabulous.
And then over to Louise.
So this is the first time I've done one of these, so please do, I mean, I've just followed what Pauline would normally do, but if there are things that you would rather have or things that you think, oh, I wish I knew about that, then please do let me know and I'll make sure it doesn't need to stay in this format. So basically, just to give you an update on the education team at Diocese, Pauline, David and Karen have all retired. So it's now me and Paul. So Paul is Wednesday to Friday and I'm there all the time. My role is to work alongside trust schools, well, to work alongside the multi-family trusts to support their schools, and Paul focuses on maintained schools that we have in Diocese. So that's how we're kind of spreading that workload. In terms of science inspections we've had so far, we had completely J1 outcomes so far, which is great. And we've had 6 in this summer semester area since the beginning of term. RE has been mentioned as an area of strength in just one report so far, and that says that the curriculum is ordered, it's sequential, it's breadth of content, supports people to understand Christianity, it's diverse, global. And I think that is something that is really being focused on by science at the moment in terms of that diversity and global part of Christianity as a world faith. And there's more training materials coming out of that next year, which we will know more about soon. The other areas of strength that have been reported so far is mainly about vision, how that's lived out, well-being, inclusion, care, and collective worship. A lot of areas of improvement can revolve around spirituality and the understanding of enabling people, children to be agents of change. And I think that's something that was developing from last year as Margaret James really thought that it was getting, there was a risk of it becoming a bit political, and that wasn't the thought. It was about kind of when your school is living out its vision completely internally, then that would automatically overflow into your local community, and you would see what that vision can then do for beyond your school. It wasn't meant to be a kind of like, what we're going to fight for this week. It was like a natural progression of the vision. In terms of an area of development, it's been mentioned, RE has been mentioned specifically in one report, and that was around assessment and developing robust systems to ensure that teachers are able to measure progress. So that's where it's been explicitly mentioned. In terms of CPD, we've done online training for new RE leads, which is helping begin RE, and Paul and I led the day's training on understanding Christianity, which was great, isn't it? That was really good. And we're holding a RE conference on 2nd of May, and we've got Julie and George New, and we have Michelle and Rebecca as well. So I hope we're really looking forward to that day, supporting teachers to use that worldviews approach as well. And it's open to all schools, it's not just to church. I think that's where we are, but that's everything that Pauline was normally reported on, but yeah, please do let me know exactly further if you would like to know. Thank you very much. Questions?
Lovely. Budget update. Yes. Doing well with our time, everybody. So just a bit of potted history, especially for new members as well. So annually, we've had 15,000 allocated to SACRE. That's via schools DSG funding. So that comes from the Central Schools Fund. In addition, because our ASC was up for renewal, we have another £15,000 agreed schools forum to put towards that, and that's annual until that process is complete. So although it's not as long as a piece of string, of course, it will hopefully at least give us some leeway in terms of the timescales and support us not only in the development and completion of the syllabus, but also afterwards with training and support for our schools and teachers. So I think that's going to be an essential element of how embedded this becomes, and obviously the quality of teaching and learning after that concurrently. In terms of the budget, as you would expect with any local authority budget, it's set at the beginning of the financial year. So spending is planned against that. So the budget isn't giving you an up-to-date picture necessarily of what's left in there. The supplies and services cover all of the costs that we plan to spend out of those budgets. So things like the cost of our re-advisors, the cost of the SACRE membership, for example, comes out of that budget area. I do believe that we are not fully spent actually this financial year. We've probably got a bit of leeway up to about £3,000. So we may want to consider that sooner rather than later in terms of that, as the financial year ends at the end of March. Our next meeting is in March. In addition with ASC, because obviously we've had some delays just from the fact that obviously we were hoping to take the planned approach that Charles was describing, and that's been stalled a little bit, and now the work that's going on behind the scenes is lengthened. We probably have quite a bit of ASC budget remaining as well, so
that's kind of earmarked, isn't it, for the curriculum writers?
As long as they're able to do that. If not, I will be having to ask for a carry forward, and that's fine, but I would just need to know that sooner rather than later.
That's the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. If that's necessary, because the bulk of the work and the development stage and the implementation stage will happen most likely next financial year, then I think I would have good rationale for carrying some of that forward and then having a bigger amount to use that following year.
We've got to think what we're going to spend on.
We've got to think about what we're going to spend on it, or are we going to just hope the work? Trust that we'll be able to carry forward. I believe with DSG, that's more straightforward than the local authority budget.
Can the 3,000, if we don't have anything else to spend, can it go to ASC?
Yes, I think we've discussed in previous meetings that everyone was broadly in agreement.
If ASC needs it.
For SACRE, I think it's subsidising ASC. Yeah. Are we still in that don't mind?
Didn't someone say, maybe it was the last time, that they were wanted to order?
Oh, Leonard.
Leonard, someone else. Who said they were going to put forward a possible.
Oh, me, donation for our LCRE.
Oh, yes.
There was another one.
Yeah. There was another one.
Was
the lady that.
But there was a SACRE which Jess Witchell and someone else put forward a contribution to the Somerset and French youth.
Yes, that they were linked to Leonard. Yeah.
Right.
Can you tell because that needs
What's the
contact them.
So to contact those who have made a suggestion about SACRE spending year. And I would have, if it's okay with everybody, we're going to have to do that via email, get that kind of shared around. Because otherwise we're not
Could that be for the LTRE as well?
Yeah,
we agreed for it, but I don't know.
That's fine.
Could I also suggest, I've heard it mentioned that it would be great to be able to subsidise school trips to religious.
As part of the awards that we're planning to fund.
But I was just thinking if there's actually extra cash floating around, why not help schools get ahead with that regardless of the award?
Offer that up.
Sure. Good idea. We've got to have we've got to have written like how much they need and things, isn't it, from the.
Yeah, so
I'll actually asking.
I'll need to go back and confirm plan spend towards the end of the year, so I've got the accurate figure. And then, yes, we will need suggestions of how much they are requesting or supporting. and whether that's there definitely apportioned
Yeah,
equally or whatever we decide to do. But if I just send out general emails, if you could give me your comments on those things, that'd be good.
No. Lovely. So number 13 is constitution final sign off. Jamie, have we got an email back or?
We have.
Can I send your way for this one?
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I think I previously advised the committee that the revised constitution would need to go to the Constitution and Governance Committee and then on to full council for final approval. The monitoring officer of the council advised that it did indeed need to go to the Constitution and Governance Committee, which it went to yesterday. But it then didn't need to go on to full council afterwards. Constitution and Governance had the ability to approve constitution there and then.
Amazing.
So I have had a message back from the clerk, and I know Councillor Curley would have been at the meeting yesterday, but
I have to say, my child was ill, but it was the first meeting I've missed. That's fine. I did watch online, but you don't always get nuances, do you?
So the clerk has confirmed that the constitution was approved by the committee with no suggested amendments.
Amazing. That's great.
We got there.
And just for everybody's recollection, I just have put in the main changes in red that we had agreed. So there were minor changes to what had previously been shared, but they had verbally been agreed at the last meeting.
But what we can do is obviously send around a copy to the committee, send around a copy of the approved version.
Amazing.
It's not often I'm told that I don't have to, I have to say something to the next people.
That was a huge win yesterday.
I think it's one of the details is our constitution and the council can only be amended at the AGM, but this isn't part of our constitution. It's a separate constitution. So I think that's why.
It was
more
straightforward. Yeah. Brilliant. That's great news.
Lovely. Any other business?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We were very fortunate as part of our Holocaust Memorial application, we were given an award to make a candle holder, which we've done. And it's made from local willow and it will be on display at the Holocaust Memorial Day event on the 27th of January. This is the first time it's been out. It's not entirely finished. And if you want to add to anything, we have sorted number of flowers to add to it, which represent the colours of the people that suffered during the Holocaust and genocides. And there is also some information which we will put out with it. And following the event on the 27th of January, we're going on tour. So we'll, if you would like it to come to schools, events, whatever, please contact me and we'll arrange to go wherever over the next year. And the idea is that if you want to stick these on, I have some sticky stuff. And also we have been invited by the Holocaust Memorial Trust to hold a VIP event where Lord Shah, who's the permanent parliamentary secretary for something local government, and yes, anyway, he's going to come down, and also the CEO of the Holocaust Memorial Trust, and that will be on the 23rd of January at Glades offices in Bridgewater. So we'd like to invite people to that as well. And yes, any questions you've got? As I say, it's not entirely finished yet, but yeah, I've spent the last week collecting information about all the numbers and details about the Holocaust and also the various genocides that have taken place in the last 120 something years. It's really depressing. And we're still there. Some of them are carrying on in Darfur and places. Yeah, and some, you know, I thought Germany started with the Holocaust, but actually no, they started in Namibia where they killed nearly all, well, virtually wiped out 2 tribes. So yeah, there's a lot of information And please feel free to have a look and join in.
One of the important reasons for bringing it, this is hiding things under a bushel here, is Holocaust Memorial Trust want us to film the candle holder with people milling around because they're going to use this example, trust example, to launch their 2025 thing. And as a result of Liz's submission with the group in Taunton, of it going on tour, Holocaust Memorial Trust are now sending all the candle holders on tour in their various localities. So if you want to mill around at some stage, I need to capture a 45-second film to send to them.
Yes.
Maybe yesterday, and it has to be submitted by Friday.
Oh my goodness.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, we thought SACRE would be a nice
Seeing as everything got cancelled last week anyway, yeah.
And the plan is that there'll be these sort of workshops, so community groups, schools, churches, faith groups will also have the opportunity to make their own candle holder. Because it's 80 candles for 80 years, so it would be great if Somerset had 80 candles dotted around.
It's also 80 years since being of the prisoners in Auschwitz now and 40 years from Bosnia. So it's a very special year next year.
On the Interfaith and Belief Somerset Interfaith and Belief Network website, there are sort of more information on it. We haven't written up all the materials, some of them are in existence, but we've collated them into one place, but we'll be writing materials and gathering testimonials from Somerset people who have connections to some of the horrific things that have taken place.
Congratulations. Yeah, that started out as that'd be interesting. Haven't stayed over my life.
You'd like us to?
Yes, please. Feel free to. Yeah,
I'll just get the mobile phone now. If you don't put your face in it, please say I'll film back.
Is there any other business? Any other business? No other business?
No.
Any other business online? Cool. The date of the next meeting is the 12th of March. 12th of March, 2 p.m. 2 p.m. 12th of March. Thank you very much, everybody.